Rule 42. All persons more than a mile high must leave the court immediately.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Today's rule is rule number 27. Life is all about connections.
Okay, so Sarah, thank you so much for being here with us. Rule 42. I am Audrey.
And I'm Jen, and it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, lady. Rabbit hole. That sounds like my life.
No, where are we going? We don't know.
Well, we're excited to find out more about your life. Let me tell you what. So first off, I love photography. So I know that it is, I see such beauty in a properly captured photo.
Yes.
And not the posed, not the say cheese. Those real, like, genuine moments. And the say cheese moments can be great too, but those real genuine, like, kind of
when you catch people off guard when they're just like happy. Yeah, those are the best ones.
Oh, ask anyone in my family about that, or anyone who spends any time with me, really. I'm kind of a bit of a creeper with the camera because I think it's really important to capture those moments. And people don't often, especially now with everyone with their cell phones taking selfies, people don't often get photos of themselves just doing things.
Oh.
So anytime we're out and about, there's my Canada coming out.
I love it.
I love that.
I'm taking pictures of everyone. Often my kids will be going through my phone and go, wait a minute, when did you take that photo? I'm everywhere.
I have so many pictures of my kids and, like, everyone else enjoying life. And I'm left out so much because I'm the one behind the camera. So I've figured out that no one's going to take it if I don't take it myself. So I will now put things on timers, and everyone knows once mom puts her phone on the floor, everybody line up. We got 10 seconds. Oh my God.
Right. That's amazing. We have a lot of people in our horde. So I do now get photos of myself a little more often than I used to, but I still take selfies with people so that I remember, yes, I was here too. Yeah.
Yes. I wasn't just an observer. I was actually present in the moment, I promise. And speaking of your horde, let's go into that horde. So you are polyamorous.
Yes.
Can you give us a better idea of what that is for those that do not understand what that
I can, absolutely. What I will say is that what polyamory is and how that works means something different to pretty much everyone who's polyamorous. But as a general rule, really all it means is, break it down to its words, many loves. So it just means that you can have love for more than one person and explore those relationships. It's under sort of the ethical non-monogamy umbrella, with ethical being the really important part there for the purposes of this discussion. It just means that, everyone knows what's going on. Everyone is, happy with the situation.
on the same
involves
page?
a lot of communication, like a lot. So much talking, and like dozens of messenger threads and meetings. And there are 11 of us just in the house because I have 5 kids. And and then we have 2 other adults who are married here, their adult son. And then also PJ, who's a little hard to explain. The very short version of this story, he was an international student living here in Canada. He worked for Jen and Josh, who are the other adults that lived here. When he stopped working for them, they said, hey, we should invite PJ to board game night because he doesn't know a lot of people in Canada. We do a lot of board games here. We own 1,200 board games, and that's a big thing for us. So we invited PJ to game night, and then my children realized that he hadn't done anything since he'd been in Canada. He was just working and going to school. He barely had met anyone. He'd not seen anything. So they basically just adopted him. From that moment on, PJ started coming to everything with us. And then we moved, he helped, and then he kind of just never left. So PJ was here too. Yeah.
Wait, so even when you moved, he came with you?
Yep. Yeah, we moved to another town, not too far away, 30 minutes from Ottawa or so. And he helped us with the move and was staying here with us for a bit. And just before that, we all got COVID. And he, knowing that Adam and I were both really sick, because he'd been at our house regularly, he just came and helped us while we were sick too. So
That's amazing.
although he has no romantic ties to anyone here, he is a very important part of our family as well.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be like an intimate kind of relationship. That's how you have the balance. Was this something that you knew that you wanted to be a part of? Is it a lifestyle that you grew up in? Is it something that you just started to explore?
So a little bit of all of those things, I guess. So I suppose that's, if I had to look back, I probably always really identified as polyamorous, just didn't know that that was a thing, so was made bad and wrong my entire life, right? But that's okay, you know. Relationships as a teenager are always weird. You might as well add a little bit of extra weird to it. But I'm actually very lucky, and I think about this a lot. Most of the people who I've dated throughout my whole entire life, like my boyfriend from when I'm 13, I still talk to almost every day. Like I still have all of those connections, friendships, and relationships from 20 years ago that are still a part of my life now. So, you know, that those strong ties to love really actually have carried through all the way, which is really nice. But I was previously married, and I would say that without really knowing what it was, there was some exploration of polyamory there, but not in the healthiest of ways. Not, and no one's fault there, just no one really knew what they were doing, and we were sort of fumbling around. And then when I got into this relationship with Adam, friends of mine approached me, and I kind of said, oh, well, you know, that's really flattering, but also, no, I just started this new relationship and I don't think that's going to work. And I came home and told Adam this story, and he went, well, wait a minute, like, you know, do whatever you want, but if you're stopping yourself from following this because of me, don't do that. Like, there's really no reason to do that. He was very familiar with polyamory because he has friends from university who are polyamorous. That was always, you know, a part of his worldview. And so he kind of went, you know, not encouraging or discouraging you, but don't make that a part of your decision making. You're welcome to explore that if that's something that might be of interest to you. And then, you know, that was sort of what opened that door for doing that in a healthy way. And we've sort of just, you know, kept exploring that over the years and have now sort of, you know, settled into something that works really well for all of us. There's always to be made, you know, but
Well, and no relationship ever goes without some sort of like some issues. So and you said like you guys obviously learned that communication was a big component in keeping the balance, so that everyone was on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you go when it's? So I've been in a similar situation. The only thing is it wasn't like we were all together living in one.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I had needs that he fulfilled and I had needs that she fulfilled, but they were separate entities. So, and there was a lot of communication involved. He was told it's a lot of it's being on the same page.
Yeah.
He was completely aware of her. She was completely aware of him. There were nights that we would go out together, but I had to pick which one I was out with that night, even though we were together as a group.
Right.
And so do you come across the same types of situations? That was the one and only time I did that. I ended up getting pregnant and leaving her, and I felt so bad about it. And then things with him ended horribly.
Oh, no.
And it just kind of died there. It wasn't something that I delved into anymore. I had enough issues in my life without having to communicate so much with so many people. And now 6 children later,
Yep.
I'm still doing the super communication thing, just in different relationships now.
Yeah.
But you do get to that point where, like, there were moments where she would kind of feel some kind of way about knowing that the next day I wasn't coming home to her. I was going home with him. And how are you able, or is it something that's kind of a deal breaker, or is it something, well, okay, let's sit down and we'll figure this out? And if you don't figure out a way to kind of get over it, because you do feel bad, like you feel awful. Or is it something that you can figure out a way through, or how to find a balance?
Yeah, I think balance is always key. And I think something you said kind of triggered something in me that I like to say to people. You get a lot that like, oh, well, I could never do that because I'm too jealous. And I say, that's valid, but also, why is that a trait you would like to protect in yourself? You know, like, I'm not saying it's for everyone, and it certainly is out, but explore your reasons for not doing a thing. If it's to protect something within yourself that maybe you may or may not want there anyways, then maybe think on that a little bit. But yes, so balance is key, like you said. And I think it's a little bit different for us because everyone that came into a relationship with me knew exactly the lay of the land. You know, no one is thinking you're going to have 90% of my time, or that somehow you're going to suddenly become more important than my children, or that you know, that hierarchy is never changing. That is my top priority no matter what. You know, everyone gets a very, very, very detailed lay of the land. I am an open book. I very much value clear, open, honest communication. And if there is something left unsaid, it's probably because it's not that important. But if not, then just come to me and we will talk about something. But all of that communication means that, yes, there's still going to be people being slightly salty if they feel like things are unbalanced, right? Like that's all salty.
There's all human, and sometimes humans are jealous. Sometimes it's just
exactly. So we just talk about things, right? And it's not always going to be perfectly balanced. Like there are a lot of moving parts within our community, even just with, you know, management of the kids' schedule. I don't do that alone. I have other people in the house, and sometimes other people not in the house, that help me, you know, drive them to school because they go to school out of our district, or get them to their zillion friends. Most of them are teenagers now, but teenagers that don't yet drive. So it's that space in between where
hard place.
Yeah, and they also
permanent Uber driver, right?
Yes, exactly. And to add a little extra complication to that, they also are all professional actors, and most of their auditions and filming are in cities that are not the city we live in. So for years, that was a huge time stressor of just back and forth to Toronto all the time. So, you know, Adam helped me a lot with that as well. And occasionally we'd have other people, you know, driving for those things as well. So it's a lot of balancing of a lot of things, you know, not just time with me or time with each other, but, you know, family time and we work together as well. We all are part of the same, you know, arts and consulting collective that we started. So there's a lot of business involved as well, which adds an extra layer of complication and communication. But it also makes things like a very beautiful, intricate web if you can balance it all.
Balance is key, and it's so hard. But that's for any situation. It's not just like a relationship. Balance is hard just throughout life. So, but listening to you talking about having this outside help and having these other people help manage a schedule and everything, I actually, maybe I'm just going the wrong way in terms of how I'm carrying out my relationship.
It takes the village, they say. We just need a whole bunch.
It does.
It does. And you can structure that in so many different ways. I mean, that doesn't have to be in a polyamorous way. Like when we homeschooled all of the kids, and now the older girls are in school, but we homeschooled for a decade and were incredibly active in the homeschool community and had a support network there too. So we, you know, built up a scaffolding of support. So there were, you know, I ran hundreds and hundreds of outings and workshops and classes for all of the homeschoolers in the community. But then also, if I had to be in Toronto with someone filming while Adam was in Montreal with another kid filming, those other two children could go do their homeschool with one of the other homeschool families that we've built community with. So I think a lot of life, no matter what it is, whether it's relationships, your friendships, everything else, life is all about connections with the people around you, with nature, with the past, even with yourself, depending on who you are, with, a higher power. So exploring all of those connections and making sure that they're solid and that you're watching for them. Some of those are connections you could very easily miss if you weren't paying close attention. That's a very important part of life, I think.
I think that's a big piece that people miss. People will say, well, I don't understand why these things are happening to me or whatever the case may be. But a lot of times it is a sign. It's trying to push you in a direction that all of the easy signs that were kind of like, oh, just turn this way, you missed. And now you get to this point where you feel like you're falling apart and everything's just kind of not where it's supposed to be. And why? Well, why? Because you didn't take the easy signs. So now you're being shoved into this position. Talking of community, how does your community respond to your lifestyle, and does it impact your children? How do your children feel about it?
My children are actually quite fond of having a large support network. It gives them more people to lean on. And I actually have one child who's asked me several times, like, can I go on podcasts and talk about this? Because I hear people all the time saying how, this is bad for children to be around. And that's ridiculous.
No. I mean, I've seen very, very toxic monogamous relationships.
Oh, so many.
What's not healthy for a child is to be around toxic energy, period. So regardless of where it's coming from, my kids would have an absolute heyday. They'd be like, yes, thank you. Yeah. And you said no, I'm going to other mom. Thank you very much.
So I think what's funny though is that I don't really think of it as a big deal. We just live our lives happily and don't really draw a whole lot of attention to it in a way that it's something that should be considered unusual, as funny as that sounds. I just kind of live my life and assume people should be okay with that. And I think the kids, like in all ways, I'm pretty freaking weird. It's not just my relationship style, right? Like I'm definitely the weird lady in the woods in 30 years, right? So and that's just how I've always been. And I don't feel like I should be apologizing that. So I just live my life and assume people should be okay with that. If they're not, surely come talk to me and we'll have a conversation about it and that'll be fun. But I think because of that, the kids kind of live their life in a similar way. Like they know that we're all weird and they're perfectly okay with that. Now, with that said, it is a bit of an unusual situation. So if the kids have, new friends coming over or that sort of thing, they will sometimes, give them a bit of a lay of the land ahead of time. Like, oh yeah, by the way, now they can just go, just go read this McLean's article and then come to my house. We're in McLean this month.
That's awesome. They found a shortcut.
Yeah, but seriously, it doesn't really impact them in any hugely negative way.
And by the way, I don't think you're weird. No. I think that you're more in tune with yourself. I think that you explored and educated yourself, and I call myself weird all the time because I see that my mind structure doesn't follow everyone else's path, and I'm not really worried about that. It's just kind of like, well, but I'm living this awesome life, so I don't care.
Own it, man. I wear weird as a badge of honor. Like when I say that, I mean that is a totally positive thing. Don't worry. I think that if you look around, being weird in this world is not such a bad thing.
No, not at all. I feel like we're all weird in our own way, and we all have our own things that we do, and kind of just make us be able to get through our days, right?
There's a great quote by Ben Platt, the actor, and he said it when he won his Tony. He said, "What makes you weird makes you powerful." And we tell kids that all the time. We tell the kids, just be different. Don't be like everybody else. Do you?
You're totally right. I love that. I love that quote. That's amazing.
When I'm listening to you guys, one question comes in my mind is just logistics. Like, what's the sleeping arrangements like? Like, how does never have their own bedroom? Like, that's what I'm focusing on. So
that's the male brain automatically goes, how does this work?
In our house, we have Jen and Josh are married. They have a suite. It's like a big old Victorian house that's been remodeled a bit. So they have a suite that has, a living room, bedroom, bathroom, so that when, 40 teenagers descend on the house, they can lock their door and disappear. They also have their own entrance, so they can escape even if they really want to. And then also downstairs, there's another room that has Julian and PJ. They share a room. And then upstairs is sort of, there's one really, really large room that it was definitely 2 rooms previously. And so all the girls are in there and they each have their own area. Lyndon has his own room just because, he's a boy and has lots of toys, I guess is really how that happened. And then Adam and I are upstairs. I'll go to other people's houses. Other people will come to visit here. Things are pretty flexible and fluid overall.
Nice. So you guys kind of just do your own thing.
Like a schedule?
A little bit, kind of, actually. It's
there wouldn't be another way to handle it. I mean, you imagine you would have to schedule things around your period. Look, my boyfriend is super far, and I have to travel to see him, or he has to travel to see me, and we really do have to schedule things, and it's kind of weird and kind of like, is this really, like, I'm making a trip to do what? What? It ends up you have your cycle, you have your kids' activities or sports and everything else in life you have to keep up with. And unfortunately, scheduling things is how you can keep things on track.
Nonstop logistics in every avenue. Honestly, like we have logistic meetings or an update on a thread pretty much every day. We have a financial committee. We have like a committee to plan the themed dinner. We have a garbage committee. Like, it's really it functions very much like an office in some ways and a family in others, which is really kind of a fascinating combination.
Yeah. Well,
that's why the business and the family components are meshing so well.
Yeah.
And even that step, I mean, that we're always refining systems and processes because it's a lot of people to make one thing work for, right? So there's lots of updates, everything flexible and fluid. I'll say that lots of times. That's pretty much, it's somewhat organized chaos.
Now, how do you bring in new people?
Well,
that's something that you guys are like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
That's pretty much my mindset. I certainly don't go looking for extra people. I'm already very, very busy. Not really. I mean, there's already a lot going on. I'm not going to deliberately add more to that. But very occasionally, every few years or so, someone will meet someone that meshes really well, and we just are in a position where we're able to explore those connections.
But not necessarily someone that will join the home. Just the next.
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't have any more space. So if we did, there'd probably already be other people living here. Like, we did look at a larger house. While we were looking for this house, we were looking at a whole bunch. And really, it was every time it was okay, how many of us can fit in here? Like, how would this work? There was one that was huge. It was an old, formerly a group home, and before that a nursing home. So lots of room, space for like a creator studio. There was space for bedrooms for everyone. It was huge.
That's so cool.
We also were like planning on starting a business incubator out of there. Like, it would have been a neat space, but it was also had been abandoned for like 10 years. So when it came down to it, we ultimately decided that's maybe a little bit too much for us. But yeah, we would have already had more people here probably if it was a different home. But to have someone else at this point, because we moved into a space with a certain set of people, to have someone else move into the same space with all of us, that would be a process at this point, I think. Yeah.
Did you guys all collectively decide to go into the business together, or was that something that gradually occurred?
It kind of gradually occurred because initially I had my photography business, and when Adam and I got together, he was just between contracts. He was doing government contracts, and at some point, and I can't really remember the circumstances behind why, but we kind of started chatting and decided, well, you know what, if you don't do another contract, we could just both work on the photography business for a bit and see how that goes. And we did that. And then at a business networking event, I met Jen and Josh. They were running a courier business at the time. And so we, after several years, sort of started, we were already like doing business together because of the business networking group, but we started a corporation together. And then that sort of has just snowballed, and it was almost like a sculpture that we didn't quite know what we were making. And it started as just a ball of clay that we all sort of slapped pieces onto. And now it's sort of becoming something discernible.
Oh, I love it. So how long have you guys collectively been doing this?
So Jen and Josh, I met 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I would say, I would call that the start of things. Even though we technically didn't have a corporation together at that point, we were working together quite a bit and referring each other a lot. So that, I think that was really the beginning.
That is awesome. And what is your work composition? Are you taking pictures of people, or is your photography more based off of action shots?
That is a great question, and also is only a teeny tiny portion of what I do. We'd have to spend a whole extra day talking about that. But for photography, we shoot a little bit of everything. Kind of like in life, we do a little bit of everything. So when I started in photography, I was doing a lot of modeling, and I started to come up with shoots that I really wanted to do that I wasn't really the ideal model for. And so that's sort of what started me doing photography. So at that time, I was doing a lot of pinup and boudoir. That's what I started with. And because I was shooting anything, of course, people are always going to ask you to do portrait style shots, family shots, newborn shots, whatever. So I was doing that as well. But my focus was pinup and boudoir. That was mostly what I did. When the kids started acting, when Lily insisted that she needed to be an actor when she was 4 years old, I took her for headshots. And because I took her headshots, then other people started asking me to do headshots. And that snowballed into me doing zillions of actors' headshots. And by the time I was really deep into the business community, because I was already doing actors' headshots, then we were doing business headshots. I had said, the only thing really that I'd said that I would never shoot is pets. And as soon as I said that, about a month later, a pet cafe reached out to me and asked me to be their affiliate photographer. So we started shooting a lot of pet photos for a couple of years.
So there's something.
Yo, that journey of never is always a funny one. But we really shot a little bit of everything over the years and sort of keep our hand. Even weddings, I don't love shooting weddings, or I think I don't until I get there, and then I really enjoy the process.
I love being at weddings.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and the people thing, and they're so happy, and.
But I still, even I don't advertise for weddings. I don't have that on my website, but I still shoot a wedding or two a year just to sort of keep my hand in it.
Like, why not? I love the way that it snowballs, though. It was just like, all right, now we're going to move on to this, so now we're going to be capable of doing this.
That's all of life, though. That's all, like, it's, the snowballing is ludicrous. Like, last month, we all work contract work and gig work. We do business consulting. We do different arts-related things. We do a little bit of a lot of things, or a lot of things, depending on which one of us you're talking about. But last month, we had an acquaintance who is a production manager for film. She asked for one of us to come in to do location scouting for an upcoming film, and I happened to be the one available that day. So I went to go be a location scout. And while I was at the office waiting for my instructions, I started talking to the producer and realized that they didn't have a costume designer for that show, and I had experience as a costume designer. So I went in as a location scout, left as the costume designer for the show. And then also while I was on set, the producer showed up and he knew I was a photographer because we've been chatting. Like, oh my gosh, do you have your camera here? No, no, I don't. Can you get it right away? Because we need an on-set photographer today and we didn't hire anyone.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
So I ended up being the set photographer for 3 of the shooting days and the costume designer when I originally went in to be a location scout.
Oh,
that is awesome.
Turned into so much more for you.
You just have to watch for interesting opportunities and, say yes when the universe allows them to arrive. The saying yes is a really interesting part of that, because life is scary and most of the magic happens in the zone of discomfort. So maybe just lean into that.
Oh, I love that. Most of the magic happens in the zone of discomfort. I love that. Because it is so true.
So true. So true.
It is those moments that you go in and your heart's racing and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. And you do it anyway. And then you walk out and you're like, holy shit, I did it.
I did it. I would say at least once a month. At least once a month. Maybe, oh gosh, no, not once a month. At least once a week. One of us in this collective books something where we all go, what? Well, okay, I guess that's what we're doing now.
Like, well, why not?
Well, you all are like supporting each other and like I think that's amazing.
It makes life a little more magical, you know? Like last week, Josh, Jen's husband, got a call from a lawyer friend of ours who we've worked with. They did process serving for him. I've done his headshots. He performed mentalism at my birthday party variety show. Anyways, so
what?
Yeah. So he called and asked Josh, and then by extension now Adam, if they would train to become private investigators so that he could send them work.
Oh.
And we're like,
that's so much fun.
Okay, so I guess that's a thing we do now. Like all of these random things just come to us. Yeah, sure, why not? And it's glorious.
I mean, you guys are already photographers, so why not?
Yeah, so many
Now the lenses from a distance.
Yep. I've got
do you all do photography, or are you the main photographer, or have they all kind of gotten this swing of it?
Yeah, so I'm the primary photographer, but Adam has been my assistant for almost a decade now. So I send him out to events and stuff even on his own now. I don't think he'd be super comfortable like doing a portrait session all on his own. But he definitely is great at events, and pets and babies love him. He is my super secret trick for if I can't get a child or a pet to look at me, I just put him over my shoulder. Seriously, it's like magic. And then very early this year, I also brought Ken onto the photography team, another one of my partners who has a background in videography, but he was new to photography. He shot with me as a model because he saw that I'd had an ad up in a model and photographer group to do some modeling, and he had just bought his first DSLR and wanted to work with someone who we sort of knew each other on the fringes of life. We'd been on the same sets together a few times. We had the same group of friends, but we'd never really hung out. And so he knew that I was both a model and a photographer and thought that that would be a good way to practice with a model for the first time. And he came and shot with me. He did a phenomenal job. Like, it definitely did not seem like it was the first time he had done model photography. And because he was so passionate about it and did such a great job and was so professional, I had a gig shortly after that I needed a second shooter for. And Adam and I were both out of town for the day. And so I asked him to come cover that for me. And again, he did just such a phenomenal job on that. And I got such great feedback that I just decided to absorb him into the business too. So now he works with me on almost every shoot as well.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
You guys are just expanding beyond just your normal home life too.
Yeah, and he's been doing videography as well for the business, which is great. And we're, developing more offerings for that. And we have now just one extra thing to, add to the empire.
Hey, you got to keep growing, right?
Now, is this something? Have your children expressed a desire to go into this field with you guys as well, or is it they're just kind of sticking to the acting?
Yeah, no, they do a lot of things too. Like our whole entire family is very musical, so there's never a moment where there isn't someone singing or playing an instrument in our house, I think. And one of the girls
Tommy knows what that's like.
Yeah, one of the girls is 13, and she just got a gig singing at someone's wedding last week. Like they're all incredibly talented and really love music too. So that's something that they do. Some of them already have jobs. One of them is working as a scare actor at a haunt this season.
My daughter wants to do that so bad.
Yeah, we actually ran our own haunt one year. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But one of them, she nannies for a family. So that's her sort of regular gig. But then she does other stuff.
How old are they? They're so responsible. I am not winning this mothering.
They're 15, 14, 13, and 12. But
Yeah, definitely not.
keep in mind, too, though, that they were homeschooled and with me all the time, right? Which is a very different life. Homeschooling was sort of a misnomer. We weren't really at home all that often. We were out in the world doing things. They've also been working in a professional environment since they were like, 2, 3, 4. So they've had a very different life where their peers are not just children of the same age. They're comfortable getting out into the world and talking to and working with people of any age because of that. So they've had a slightly different childhood than a lot, because if we're doing all of these crazy things that I'm telling you about, they're right there with us. So, Lily is 15. She just started her own business. She got a summer grant from the government, and she started a button business where she makes her own like buttons, pin buttons and magnets, but also calls in the work of other artists. So she's showcasing other small artists on her buttons as well. They're all doing interesting things all the time. And it'll be really interesting to see where that falls. Some of them certainly see some of the things that we're doing and are like, yeah, I want to do more of that. But they also have been raised, at least, by me. They certainly have other influences, but in a way that they at least know that, yes, society tells us there's a very prescribed way to do things, and that is the only way. We're stuffed into our misery box, and we are forced to stay there, even though it actually isn't locked and doesn't even have a cover, and we can step out whenever we want. But nobody tells us that, so you have to figure it out on your own. But they're aware that they sort of, craft their own life. No one gets to tell them what to do. And if they want to, go to university and, be a psychologist, that's fantastic. If they want to do that for their whole entire lives, great. If they want to do that for 5 years and then decide that they want to go off and make jewelry at Renaissance fairs for the next decade, go ahead and do that. Nobody is stopping you. Mm-hmm. So what they will do, I think, will be a variety of things, probably. I can see some of them, picking a career and really honing in on that for a significant period of time. I can see some of them, doing 1,000 different things and being happy with that. But whatever they do, they know that they have a giant support network behind them. So
I think that's what's most important, is having the support, and you guys are all very supportive of each other and communicate. I think that's what pushes people to want to be better and try new things.
Community is very important. And it's also a great way to realize that, you have backup. That's fantastic. But also, try things, because yes, you're going to fail at things. Absolutely. We all do. That's not something anyone should get upset about, because all of those failures are just stepping stones to success. Might be a lot of them. Like you might have 1,000 stones in your path before you reach your first success. But with all of those failures, you're going to be learning things too. So, are we really going to call them failures? Or are they just learning new ways not to do things? So,
well, the majority of the most successful stories come with this path of rejection or just failing, and not really, like you said, it's not really a failure, because at least you put the effort forward to try something that was out of your comfort zone, and you just learned something that will help the next time you do the same thing. Maybe you'll do it a little differently and you'll have a different outcome. But every single successful story comes with a path that everyone would say, well, if I'd done that, I probably wouldn't have continued. Mm-hmm. But that's why you're where you are, and the success story is where they are.
Yeah. It is difficult to live in a constant zone of uncertainty, right? Like, as an entrepreneur, and as, someone with a lot of interpersonal relationships, it is pretty much nonstop uncertainty, but that is life anyway. So that's one of the things that I really love about my 15-year-old. She is very logical and analytical. Like, think Sheldon, not from Big Bang Theory, but toned down a little bit. She's very logical and analytical, but she also has this like base level of chaos and absurdity that is just so contradictory to that and is so beautiful. She seems to have discovered very young that the world is chaos and absurdity. And not only do you have to learn to accept that, but if you can learn to dance within it, then you're going to have a much more pleasant life. And it's really fun to watch that happen. Like, for example, she one time was on Etsy and she saw a giant bag of teeny tiny plastic babies. It was like, I need to have those babies and sow chaos. So she ordered this giant bag of like 100 tiny babies. And originally her plan was to just mail them out to random addresses with no explanation. And then she was like, wait, no. If someone had like, is trying to conceive and not doing a good job or just had a miscarriage or something that might seem targeted. So I can't, she thought that. Yeah. But so she, had a great idea for chaos and then thought better of it. It was like, no, there's a better plan here. So I've watched her for years with these tiny babies. She's ordered more multiple times. So I've watched her for years with these tiny babies, just sowing random chaos. We went to a cornfield to a corn maze once, and she was like hiding the tiny babies in the ears of corn and then hiding around the corner to just watch people find them and go, what?
I love that.
She takes them with her places and just like slips them into people's pockets. It's
so cool that she does that, and it's so funny you say that because my daughter and Audrey's daughter, they do a lot of cosplay and they go to these cons and they bring these tiny little ducks that they just walk up to people and hand them a duck and then walk away. And
that's amazing. Yes, we got ducked at a con recently. Rose and I went to Anime North, and someone gave us a tiny duck.
My son's school does that in school. They hide the kids bring the ducks. And they hide them in random places in the school. So you'll be like walking by the water fountain. There'll be like a little duck there or like random places and you find the ducks.
But it is cool. It's chaos. Like you said, it's something different. It's not normal. It's a little bit weird. It's a little bit cool.
Kind of
smiles on people's faces though too, which is
honestly, chaotic joy is my jam.
Yes.
So one of my partners, Nick, is a professional Santa. And so,
and his name is Nick.
Yes, for real. Okay, I'm going to tell you a really funny story about that. Remind me about the playground, okay? We'll loop back around to that. But the joyful chaos, Nick and I, in the summer months that are not Christmas months, will occasionally go on a trip somewhere. Just go on a road trip with him in his summer Santa gear, which is like his Santa pants and suspenders with a red t-shirt and his hat, and just show up at random places with no context. And it makes people so happy. And occasionally people will be like, Santa, what are you doing here? It's summer. And I just say, hey, now Santa needs vacation too. Like, and people just come and get pictures with him and everyone's so happy. And it makes him happy too, right? Like he glows when he's doing things like that. So I spent a week a couple of summers ago with my shiny gold fanny pack with his business, like his Instagram cards, and them handing them out to random strangers. And it was fantastic. And things like that, I think, don't happen often enough. If you can find small ways to bring more joy to the world, why not do that?
I think that's why Audrey and I randomly put on like costumes and stuff and just like wander around places.
The trailer for this show is actually Audrey and Jen in jellyfish costumes.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm going to show you my mess for a moment here, since I happen to be in my bedroom and I have like a heap of studio wardrobe that needs to be put on hangers and gone to the studio wardrobe space. But this is just all like random clothes for photo shoots. Entire giant pile, and that's like
we would have so much fun with that.
Oh my god,
not that far away, guys. Make a road trip. But
wait, where are you?
I'm near Ottawa.
I've never been to Canada before.
Oh my god!
Really?
I've been told that it is an amazing place to go.
We'll do a special podcast episode. There you go.
Let's do it.
I love.
Costumes.
You're doing this.
Listen, we can totally do it, but I think we have to go in February, even though it's cold, because you can skate the canal, which is something I've always wanted to do.
Don't get too excited about that, man, because it's been so warm in the past couple of years. 2 years ago, the canal didn't open at all.
Oh wow!
And then last year, I think it was open for a total of maybe 5 or 10 days. Which was very exciting for one of my kids because her boyfriend desperately wants to take her skating on the canal and she hates the cold. And she was going to do it because she loves him. But the weather was like, no, no, you're not. And it was glorious for her, honestly.
But Sarah, we'll absolutely come up for a weekend and do something cool. That'd be a lot of fun. For sure.
That would. We can create our own little like happy chaos.
You said we will do the weirdest photo shoot ever, and it'll be glorious.
Oh my God, I love that.
You did want to circle back to the haunt and the playground, but I want to ask you. I'm still hung up on the logistics. So like,
oh my God.
All right.
He wants to know how the Playboy Mansion works.
No, not that part.
He wants a bump, chicka bow bow.
Everybody's fascinated with sex, of course. But no, I'm just thinking about the logistics. Like, is someone producing this overall? Is there like...
No, see, what's happening is Tommy is hung up on the idea of how do you take care of more than one partner at a time and keep them all happy?
That's also fair. That's very fair.
Well, sometimes you don't. Like, honestly, no one's ever going to be happy all of the time. Let's be honest about that. That's life in general. That's the case when you have two people in a relationship, usually, right? That takes some finessing. But there is sort of someone producing it from like, there's a lot of household logistics. So often Jen will take that role of taking everybody's information in, because that was what she did in her business too, logistics, right? She ran a courier service. So she often does the job of taking everyone's information in, like, Josh has a date with his girlfriend on this night, so he's going to be out. So there's a car gone. And, Violet needs to get...
you guys have to connect all that too.
Oh, yeah. It's madness. Seriously, it's insane. And, like, some of us have, other things that we do outside the house, whether it's, other people that we're seeing or just other things that are happening in our lives. Like we have work things, we have social things, we have, romance things. There are a lot of things going on, and plus all of the kids' schedules. So yes, there is someone producing all of this to some extent, and that's usually Jen, because there is so much in terms of logistics. Like, think about even just household chores, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people here and a lot of things to do. So what happens with that right now? We've tried a couple of different systems, but what seems to be working for us at the moment, we have a chore chart. At the beginning of the week, everyone sort of like signs up for the things that they'd like to do, or lets us know the things they really wouldn't like to do. We, by which I mean Jen right now, distributes those chores, gives it to everyone for approval. No one's dictating anything. If you want something changed, let us know. And that includes the kids. Like I have a very different way of parenting, which we can talk about if you'd like to, but it hinges on, mutual respect, right? Children are people, not possessions. So we treat them as such. They are also community members. So, things go out for approval. And then at the beginning of every day, in our whole family group thread, like the house one, the one for people who live here, there are a lot of group threads. There will be a list of, okay, this is what everyone signed up for today. Let us know when you've completed it so we can check it off the list. And we just, update that group thread throughout the day when we've done the things that have been assigned. And that sort of is, a tiny snapshot of one itty bitty piece of the logistics puzzle. But it does require a lot of communication on everyone's part, and some buy-in too, which is like the challenging part sometimes, right? Getting that many people to buy into the same system has been an evolving process. Yeah.
You probably have do you have a whole wall that's just your family calendar? Because
we do have a giant calendar wall. Now, here's the thing about that. People actually have to write stuff on it for it to be effective. So sometimes it's very effective.
Or remember it's there.
We have a big Google document with like everything that we have scheduled for the next couple of months. We do schedule things quite a ways in advance too. Like we're planning some retreats and workshops and stuff. And we were having a conversation the other day. Jen and I were planning something for, the spring solstice full moon in 2025 or something. He was like, wait, what? Are you serious? Are you actually planning something for like the full moon in March of 2025? Like, yes, we are. Just
why not?
Okay.
Yeah. This is important. Don't mess it up.
Yeah. So looping back to the haunt, because that was like kind of a fun community thing as well. We, during COVID, the first year, I don't know how it was where you were, but kids weren't allowed to go out and trick or treat.
Yeah.
And we're a big Halloween family. Like, we love our Halloween. We've already started the horror movies. Like, this is our season. The kids have been in a lot of horror movies. Like Lily was young Claire in the new Resident Evil movie that came out a couple of years ago. Like we enjoy our horror, and Halloween is a very happy time for us. We're actually producing a Halloween art show this year, so like we like Halloween. And during COVID, the kids weren't allowed to trick or treat. Several years they'd asked for us to do like a yard haunt, and we kind of just landed on, well, you also really like trick or treating, so we're going to do that for this year.
Yeah.
But then when they realized they weren't allowed to trick or treat, they're like, this is the perfect year for it. We're going to do the thing. And that was a big part of like our project-based learning for September and October for homeschooling, was building this giant haunt throughout our whole entire yard. So the whole front yard was like a walk-through graveyard. We built like a hearse and a little crypt and a whole bunch of headstones, a pet cemetery. The side yard was like a spider tunnel. There was like a zombie zone. The whole backyard was like a maze made with pallets that led you to different zones. And then out the side yard, we got an actor to come and like greet people at the front because, you know, we're pretty plugged into the acting community. We had live actors like myself and the kids and one of our friends throughout the whole thing. And we had like 900 people through. We set up a website where people could book in their family pods because we were only allowed to have up to 10 people in the same group. Wow. And so we booked in, you know, I think 5 or 10 minute increments. I can't remember exactly what we did, but over the course of the time we ran it, we had like 900 people through. So we helped make Halloween, you know, a little more fun for 900 extra people.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I actually had a friend do that in Greenwich. She did.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, she had actors throughout. I actually have another friend in a different town. I don't remember which one. Their family does it every year as well. Like you go in, there's sensory areas, so like you can't see anything. But in order to move forward, you have to touch the stuff in front of you, and you don't want to.
Yeah, no, we love that stuff. We've been to so many haunts. Like that is a thing.
I got
to hear that.
I have a party
in the escape rooms. Remember how we did that one escape room? It wasn't even scary, and I was too scared to put my hand in the thing. Like it was.
Oh my goodness.
Jen, all I would do is room. Oh, but they're fun. Did you make it out?
Okay, so we love escape rooms. Like Adam and I have gone to escape rooms that are supposed to be for 4 people just on our own and finished them. And we like escape rooms. But Jen and I tried to go for a date years ago. And we got through a significant portion of it. But then they were like, wow, you really are getting through a lot of this for only 2 people. And then one of the things led to a hatch in the floor and you had to like climb down a ladder into the basement. And she was like, well, I guess this escape room's done now because that's not happening. But nope. So
I'm there with Jen.
Sure.
I am too. I'd be too scared.
I went to one where someone had to get into a coffin and you had to pull exit and it locked.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, that's not me. We put someone else in.
That's what you
I didn't know. They were claustrophobic. I had no clue.
I really want to design some escape rooms. That's like on my list somewhere down the line. So
part of the empire.
Yeah, but like bringing random joy to the world doesn't always turn out the way that you would expect. So you'd asked before how like, you know, the polyamory sort of affects us as a community. I talked a little bit about the kids, but I don't ever expect people, like my default is not expecting people to have a problem with the way that I exist, right? So it kind of surprises me still sometimes when something happens. And we had a project that we launched with Polykindred where for my birthday, we painted a whole bunch of little tiny like peg dolls of different sizes. And we had everyone that came to the birthday party paint their own doll or a few. And then we put like little messages with them and sent them out into the communities in our town and surroundings so that people could find them. And so about a week into the project, someone who had sponsored the project emailed us and was like, take my name off of everything because you're promoting polyamory. We're like, by existing happily? That's weird. Okay. But also it does remind me that I never really consider myself like an advocate for these sorts of things. But maybe a little bit more education and kindness is required around some subjects. So there's things like that. But then also like even just the the random joy doesn't always go as planned because, people are people. So one time, Nick, lovely Nick in his Santa suit, took Lyndon, our 4-year-old, to the playground because they were going to get some footage for his TikTok. And PJ, who is a young 20s Indian exchange student, he's not a student anymore, but
and that's how you got him.
And Julian, who is a rather large, bulky 20-year-old who looks like he's 40 sometimes, all went to the playground together with Lyndon. And so
that is a lot of big men.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't really think anything of that configuration, but apparently other people did. So
why?
A couple hours later, I was on the Facebook community group, and I saw someone post, "Hey, did anyone else see Santa at the playground around this time?" And I said, "Hey, yeah." Well, Josh commented, "Yeah, that's Nick. That's our friend." And I commented, "Yeah, he's one of us." And so that person who had posted anonymously then messaged me. I was like, "Were you serious about that? Because I think he was part of a child trafficking incident." No.
What?
Wait, what? I'm pretty sure that's not the case, but why don't you tell me what's going on so we can get to the bottom of this? And he was like, "Well, he was with a child that was maybe 3 years old, and his name was Lyndon." I was like, "Yeah, that's my kid. Nick is one of his best friends." Okay, well, this is so far looking like everything's fine. And he was convinced that because he tried to talk to him and asked him what his name was, and he told him Nick, that he was some.
Oh my God!
And he called the police on him, and So he said he was Santa, a tall Indian man. PJ's shorter than me and 100 pounds soaking wet, and a burly Middle Eastern man. Julian's as white as they come. So that's a really great story that not only illustrates how random joy can go awry, but also how eyewitness testimony is really not that valid.
No,
exactly. Wow.
No, that person just had a preconceived notion of where that was going, and decided, "Yep, I am." Maybe they were just watching too many movies that day. Are there a lot of those movies out right now?
There's a lot.
People get into this
they start
storyline in their head, and they can't decipher a movie from reality. So
yeah, it was. I mean, he really meant well. He has young children too. He had his background is one that was a bit traumatic. I know this person because he's a part of our community.
And the movie.
And he really meant well. He did. But it was just such a hilarious moment for us. We still occasionally, that was over a year ago now, and we still occasionally refer to Julian as the burly Middle Eastern man. So,
I mean, have you guys figured out a Middle Eastern name for him? Because Julian just does not work.
No, we'll have to work on that.
Nick, come on, Nick. He can't have the name Nick and look like Saint Nick. So come on, that can't really be his name.
Honestly, though, and he's also one of the sweetest humans ever. He ran a cat rescue, and he has a friend that is an actor who's getting up there in years and doesn't drive, and he drives her to things, and he was a foster parent. He volunteered at the elementary school when his kids were in school. He is just one of the sweetest people. So he really is Saint Nick. And then also he happens to be from up north in Canada, and when I first met him would mysteriously disappear sometime in the fall to go help his brother with stuff. So
we're wait a minute. Oh, we like Nick. I love your circle. Your circle just is full of so much positive energy and just so much light, and kind of that ability to live your life outside of what the world's expectations are and not really care. And that's just something that's so not prevalent in today's society. So it is just, you're like a breath of fresh air, if that makes sense.
It was a very good skill to teach the children too, right? Though, because they homeschooled, so they really didn't have that peer pressure, bullying weirdness that happens within. They had friends that were in school, and they were. Yeah.
My oldest two would go to your house and never leave. So
Well, come on up. We accept random teenagers. They're here all the time.
They're great at my 15. No, she's 16 now. My 16-year-old is actually, she wants to go into the scare houses and be one of those actors. She wants to do voice acting. She sings. You wouldn't even realize you had another child there.
Oh my God, yeah. Send her my way. She can come do a retreat here for a week.
She wouldn't leave. Ask Tommy. He's gotten stuck with her for a while.
No, yeah, she would. I think both our kids would love that because mine's an actor too. So yeah,
Well, bring her when you come do a photo shoot. Seriously, just like
you should do it.
We will. Tommy. I think that would be a great thing to.
Yeah. So combined, we'll bring like 36 people, and it'll be perfect. So
you know what? That happens here sometimes.
So we have a million.
We have teenagers who are roughly the same age, right? And we're the type of hosts that we always have been where when the kids are having a birthday party, it's how many people can I invite? Well, I don't care. Like, just let me know how many people are coming. So because of that, they really have now as teenagers taken that to heart. And they'll let their sisters invite their friends too. Sometimes there's restrictions on how many and stuff. But we occasionally will have parties here where there are like 40 teenagers. So for Rose's 13th birthday, she wanted to have like a fantasy in the forest formal dance. And so we have a big Victorian house, we have our living room and music room are like one big room. So we brought all of the fake trees in the house there's a bunch, they were here when we got here. I don't know why we have a dozen fake trees, but we do, whatever. So we brought all the fake trees in the house down into that area and, a whole bunch of fairy lights and other stuff. And even though kids, came in their formal wear, because of the photography studio, we also have like 100 ball gowns in our house. Oh, cool. So I brought them all into the kitchen and played fairy godmother all night. And I swear every kid at that party changed their dress like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, that is so cool. Can you redo it? Can I come?
Yeah, Audrey does massive parties too. So yeah, that's like right up your alley. That'd be really cool.
We occasionally have parties for really no reason. Like, for a while on Thursdays, and we're starting to reinstitute this, we just have themed dinners. So we one time had it was just absurdity themed, and we had all ridiculous foods. We all dressed in the most ridiculous outfits we could find. And then we watched some really absurd movie. I can't remember what it was, but we just try to find random ways to have fun together. Some of the sometimes those have to be ways that don't cost a lot of money. Sometimes those are, epic adventures, but we always have a fun and interesting time wherever we are, whatever we're doing.
Isn't that the purpose of living?
It is.
Enjoy your existence. I came from absolutely nothing. I was so poor. And I remember those days when you would get stuck inside with the kids and there was no park option to go. And then you're kind of just thinking, I didn't even have money to get the board games.
Yeah.
So I would take string. And I had this really long hallway, and I started putting string all over the hallway, just crisscross, and told my kids, don't come out of the room. And I was by myself. I was single, just raising my kids alone. And I was at the end of it. And on the other end of it was ice cream, and you could make a ice cream sundae. And at the end they were at was the beginning, and they had to get through all of the strings to get to me and their ice cream. And awesome. They had so much fun.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But it's weird because now I can take them to places like Disney and do things like that with them, and I don't see as much joy in those moments.
No, I feel like little fun moments that you can have with them, just being at home and doing those stupid things. But what people call just the silly random moments where you can just actually enjoy each other's company and be happy together. That's what I like doing that with my kids.
Oh my gosh, Jen is the best at that because she's also a comedian, and she also didn't really have a very joyful childhood. So she's kind of getting to do that with Lyndon now, which is a really beautiful thing to watch. So they'll be stomping around the house doing a marching band, or yesterday they were playing Jenga, but on her back for some reason. There's a lot of just random joyful moments like that, and it's really fun. I tried to do that a lot with my kids when they were the older ones when they were little too, especially during COVID when we couldn't go out and do things. We were having living room campouts and luau's, and it was a weird time. But I think with everything, I think the joy really comes a lot in not caring what other people think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, my kids used to go out in costumes and everything just on a regular day.
We talk about all the time on the
I'm
show.
hiding from my 2-year-old.
Now, we say all the time on the show, like, as we get older, I guess the less fucks you give, the better off you are.
Yep.
And
I preach that to people a lot. Yeah.
And it's not a place that you can come, like, you just get to. Like, you don't just stop caring about what people think. It's something that you just have to, it's almost like a survival skill.
Oh, yeah. I love that my children had picked that up so early. Like, I went out into the town, and there's like this little like witchy shop down the road, and I went in to look at stuff, and I was talking to the owners, and one of them was like, oh my gosh, I just love this town because the kids are so cool. Like, I was out one day and there was these 2 kids walking along, and like one of them was wearing elf ears, and they were playing ukulele and singing walking down the street. And like, yeah, that's my kids.
Dude, our kids would love that.
That would be our kids.
Yeah. So and Violet, like, she's in school, and she's like, really not caring what other people think of me is very liberating, because, you're in high school. She wasn't in this school. She went there for a little while, 1 year, but was at another school for most of the time. And so she's also like new and interesting. And so you're always going to have people like being jerks. That's what teenagers do. And so she just gives no fucks. She's like, yeah, okay, buddy. Like, have fun with that.
Right now, I feel like it's a skill they're learning a lot faster, because my 16-year-old is very much like that. Like, the things I tell her all of the time, she's so much braver than I ever was at her age. She is not afraid of her sexuality. She is not afraid of doing the things that, she looks around and she's like, no, not everybody's doing it. No, not everybody wants to talk to me because I'm the weird kid. But it's what makes me happy. It's what brings joy to my life. And they don't live in my head, and they don't come home with me, and I'm not around these people all of the time. So why do I care? And then she'll be like, and I live rent free in their brains. So
love it. The school transition was an interesting one for my kids, because they were like very well socialized in like a real world socialization type of way. Like, they could come to your house and sit at a dinner party with all of your friends and have no issues. But school socialization is a very different thing. Like, when people say, oh, are you worried about socialization? I point out that is a really unrealistic model of socialization for the rest of your life, right? Like, when else are you going to be with only people your exact same age, probably of like a similar socioeconomic status, sometimes even the same religion or gender, depending on what type of school you go to, right? Like, that's fucking weird. So it's not really the most realistic model anyways, but also, so like, they didn't, even though I prepared them, there are some things that, you can know about it, but not really understand until you're in the middle of it, right? So they knew, for example, that, homophobia, racism, sexism, like, that's a thing. But I think they kind of thought that it was just in like isolated pockets of terrible people, right? Not that it was just a thing that happens everywhere. So they went to school, and immediately everyone is like racist and homophobic. Like, what is happening right now? And so Violet actually went to school a little bit earlier than the other kids. She wanted like a few weeks at the end of the school year so she could, get acclimated. And so she had a very interesting way of dealing with that. When like random homophobia would come up, she would say, oh, isn't that interesting? So why don't you tell me why you feel that way? Why do you feel that being gay is bad? And she just ask questions. And very quickly people would realize, wait, I don't actually have anything in my own head that tells me this. Someone else told me to think
They're
this.
repeating what they heard.
Yeah. And so she just did that and wore her pride shirt more often. Like, I really like that there was a very specific way of dealing with this, which is just be a little louder about it. It's a fascinating way to deal with that. But Lily, the one that I said is very logical and analytical, she had probably the most difficult transition, because high school is not a place where you go for logic, right? And she spent the first 2 weeks coming home going, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, why are they acting this way? Do they not?
Oh my God, your face too hard.
Like, she could not wrap her mind around why someone would do things that is actively hurting themselves and the people around them for no discernible reason. Like, she just had no method of making that make sense. And it took a while to like acclimate to that particular thing. The academics, the general, like, making friends, social aspect, the extracurriculars, that none of that was an issue for anyone. But it was like the world is actually considerably worse than I thought it was. Isn't that interesting? Was the transition point, which, just kind of makes our general family mission of spreading love and kindness even more important, right? The more you see things like that.
And they learned very quickly that common sense is not common.
Yeah, no, that is not a common thing.
Yeah, it's been bizarre. There have been many times where, there was one gym class where they went out a lot just to walk around the track. So one of the kids would call me during that time just to chat. And the amount of times that I have heard her yell at someone, you can't just yell racist things at people, or like, if you do that in 5 years, you're going to get arrested for assault. Like,
oh my God.
Maybe you should start practicing now. It's a very strange ecosystem to observe,
So how are your kids in relationships? Like, are any of them wanting to be polyamorous, you think, when they get old?
No. So one of them very wisely once said, not that I have any problem with polyamory, like it can clearly work really well, but I have no interest in that. That is way too much work. Like, one relationship is already too much work. Like, why would I put myself through that?
So this is funny because before you came on, Tommy and I were having this conversation, and one of the biggest things was the time and commitment involved in having the energy to do all. Like, I literally maybe 2 days ago got so overwhelmed. People think that, oh, your lifestyle's so glamorous. Yeah, I'm exhausted. I don't know where I am from one day to another, where I'm going to be, what kid I'm going to be around, who I'm going to be around, what relationships I'm going to be able to build that week, because I don't know if I'm going to be around for the whole week. Yeah. And I literally just shut down. And I have one partner that I had to reassure I am okay, I am alive, I am just overwhelmed and need to not feel the way that I do right now, so I shut down. And to have to do that with multiple partners and have to like break down on top of having to try to explain to my kids that mommy loves you, mommy's just in a fetal position on the floor crying because she's just done. Then have to do that with multiple people. It's so exhausting. I'm already exhausted.
It does take a lot of energy in many ways, but you also have to keep in mind that different people have different levels of need in a relationship too, right? Like, my partner, Chris, lives all the way in Niagara, which is 5 hours away from here. And he is very much actively a part of our family, but we don't necessarily talk every single day, where he's not, as active in some of the group chats unless he's around, because he does also, like, his contract for work, he has WBC, the World Board Game Championships we go to every year. He has that. And a week surrounding my birthday off, no matter what. So, and then he also comes for, like, he'll come for either Thanksgiving or Halloween. He usually comes for Christmas. He comes for as many of the birthdays as he can, and he'll stay for as long as he can. Sometimes that's, a few days between shifts. Sometimes he'll take a whole week. But he'll come on family vacations with us and stuff sometimes. But we do a lot of regular check-ins of, getting everything you need, everything good. We've known each other for a couple of decades, right? So we have a very good relationship where we can be very open with one another. But we don't necessarily, talk every single day. He doesn't get every single update. It's actually something that, many years ago, I would not have thought of as a healthy relationship, but it is an incredibly healthy relationship with fantastic communication. We just don't interact every single day, and there are different levels.
Fills his needs.
Yeah,
exactly. So he has a very full life himself. He has work that he loves. He has a great group of friends. Like, there's a reason that he doesn't live closer to here. It's because he already has an awesome life where he is. But that doesn't mean that we still can't have the bond that we have.
Wait, I'm confused. I'm back on the logistics now. So Chris is out of do you call it cohort, or what do you call it? Group, family?
No, so we have people that live here and people that don't. But I mean, for me, that's all, a part of my core family. Sometimes I jokingly call them the horde. So I have someone who refers to them as the pod. Like it's just funny. But yeah, Chris is 5 hours away. Nick lives an hour away. Ken lives half an hour away in Ottawa. Not everyone lives here, but Ken's here usually a few days a week because he lives close, and we also do a lot of work together. And then Nick is here quite regularly. He's usually here once a week, sometimes more. He comes for family activities that we're doing and stuff.
When he's not getting arrested at the park, that is. Exactly. You mentioned a partner that lives in the house with you, right?
Yeah. So Adam is here with me. That's Lyndon's father, and also Jen and Josh. And
Chris is a partner who's out of.
That's right. Yeah.
But these are partners outside of the house that are yours, or everyone?
These are partners that are outside of the house that are mine. Josh also has a girlfriend. She lives with her family.
How many partners do you have personally, would you say?
So we have Jen and Josh and Adam who live here.
So those three.
And then Chris and Nick and Ken who don't live here.
6.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of juggling.
No, but it balances because you have the different situations with the living arrangements and the distance.
What if you're with Nick and it's like, well, I was supposed to be with Chris tonight, and does Nick get salty?
That's why Jen does the logistics.
There is a lot of logistics. Like, again, different people, different levels of need. Like, I don't disappear from the house all that often, especially if the kids are here. I try to be around whenever they're here, unless it's something that was already pre-scheduled and then the schedule changes or something like that. So I don't disappear from the house all that often. I about once a month I'll schedule a time to go hang out with Nick and do something. Sometimes we go out and do something. Sometimes I'll go to his house and we'll hang out and watch TV or movies and hang out with the 10 cats. There are a lot of cats and they're awesome. So we do that, like make sure we have scheduled time just for us about once a month. And that was, our predetermined, this is what we'll do. That doesn't mean that he can't, pop in on a Tuesday and we go out on a mini adventure for a couple of hours.
With all this scheduling, is there any time for spontaneity? Like that's...
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. My life is all about spontaneity. Yes, there are schedules, but every schedule I make, with the exception of some key things, like there's art time with Josh on Tuesdays. That is pretty much immovable unless someone is dying. There are certain things like that. But otherwise, we're all about that flexibility. Because of work, too. Like, we have to be. Yeah. If one of the kids, like, we didn't know until a couple of weeks ago if we might be, if I might have to be in Ireland for 3 months because one of the kids got a part in a TV show, right? Like, all that sort of thing has always been a part of our narrative. Anything could change at the drop of a hat. We might have to be in Toronto in 8.5 hours for an audition. So we've always had that element. Plus then we all work contract work and gig work. So sometimes something will come up at the very last minute. And now, Jen is doing comedy and speaking engagements in, 4 different cities over the span of 2 weeks, and we're not going to see her. Or I have to suddenly go to Nova Scotia for work. Or, I ended up in Brazil for a week with like a couple of days notice for work in March. We do have an incredibly high level of flexibility compared to most people because we both work for ourselves and work collectively. So we fill in the gaps when someone goes down. Like with all of this, there's obviously going to be burnout at some point. I actually have chronic health issues as well. And right now I'm in like a full leg split.
Oh no.
I think my camera just went. Yeah. So like right now I'm in a full leg split too. So what I can do, changes a little bit. And so because though we all work together and, form this gigantic scaffolding that supports all of us, when someone goes down or when someone, is starting a project that doesn't pay as well, but will pay out eventually, other people are filling in those gaps, which is a really, I think, interesting way to live and to lean on community.
Wait, what's more impressive, Sarah, is that as you're in bed, you've been holding your phone the whole time?
I have, yes.
Wow.
Wow.
She's stayed very still. She's been very
Steady hand from years of photography and from doing when I
shaking all over the place.
Wow. Nicely done.
I do travel writing as well. So when I do that, I often don't bring my big photography camera. I bring my phone. And so I do a lot of handheld video and stuff too. And so I've learned the sturdy hand over the years.
Impressive.
Very impressive. And I have to say, I love the component of balance with all of your schedules being so in terms of this person could be here, this person could be here. There could be a 2-week gap between this person and this person being together. The fact that you guys have, so like a big problem right now, and I'm not saying that polyamory is for me, but the biggest problem right now I think I'm having from a relationship perspective is that loneliness from not being with my partner for whatever. Sometimes we don't know when we're going to see each other again. And sometimes we get these like little moments that we weren't expecting that we hold on to and we cherish, but like then that separation becomes harder. And I think that it's great that you guys have each other to lean on because you don't have to have such an emotional response you're not lonely.
Yes. It's really nice too, because it's not just like the interconnectedness for me, but for everyone. Like I acknowledge that we do polyamory in a very different way than a lot of people do. It's like kitchen table polyamory to the extreme. But we,
I like that term.
Like Ken and I went to Iowa for an art show. We were exhibiting in an art show and decided that instead of shipping our piece, we would drive it there and go for the opening reception. And it was awesome. But it also meant that, I was taking time away from the rest of the family, which is always, a challenging thing to do, both from like an actual logistics and from, an emotional standpoint as well. Taking time just for myself to do something is always something that, weighs on me, and I have to decide how good of an idea really is this. But what was really comforting to me is that it not only gave me like that alone time to connect with Ken more and for us to, further our art together, which is really cool. But while we were traveling, we're also, getting photos on the group thread of like people back here playing board games together and like everyone doing their own things, both separately and together. But we're still all, connected because we have these ways of connecting with each other outside of the physical as well.
I love that.
That's a really neat thing that happens. Like we go to Nova Scotia a lot as well. Sometimes it's just like it could be any configuration of people, but there's obviously going to be someone who isn't there at any given time. Yeah. So we're often, sending photos of what's happening and that sort of thing. So it's a nice way to stay connected even when we're not all in the same physical space. Like that's not something that happens very often, like Christmas. And I think the only time that all of us, like everyone in our family, like what I call our family, has been together was in July. We needed to get a photo done for the McLean's article, and they wanted everyone in the photo.
Oh.
And so they were like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Like, we'll
not everyone.
Yeah. So that was a logistics nightmare because Jen was away at a friend's house taking a little retreat to do some work and like work on her mental health. We had people who were working. We had people who were away places. We had people who lived in other cities. Like it was insane coordinating everyone getting to one place all at the same time. We ended up all going to where Jen was. It was like on a farm in a small town, like beyond Toronto.
To point out the fact that you guys also hold the value in getting that mental health break.
Yes, very much.
Jen was on a retreat. So yeah, continue.
Well, I mean, that's something too with like, being around this many people all the time. That takes a lot of energy. And so there are going to be times for different people that'll look like different things, but there are going to be times when you will have to separate yourself and take a step back. But that doesn't mean that you can't just come right back in and, get back into the swing of things. And that is another benefit to like sort of the flexibility in our lifestyle is you try to find a full-time job where you can take 2 weeks to go and, take care of your mental health or go disappear for 2 months to go live with the nuns in Zambia. So yeah, that's also a thing that we do sometimes. So yeah.
Wow.
So Jen, like I said, is a comedian, and she also works. She's a Métis woman. She works on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and is a reconciliation specialist. And so she was at a Women Changemakers conference or retreat with a whole bunch of women from all around the world who were making positive changes. And she ended up being roommates with Sister Rose, who is an indigenous Zambian nun. So the indigenous Zambian nun and Jen, the comedian who just released a book called Jesus Loves a Crazy Horny Feminist, were roommates. And that could have gone in two very different ways. But it turned out they ended up being the best of friends. So Jen has gone to Africa to visit several times. And a couple of years ago, she was going because she had a lot of work that needed to be done and was having trouble, focusing in her space because of all of the outside influences. So she just said, you know what, I'm going to go to the convent for 2 weeks and stay with the sisters. And then I was doing a fair amount of travel writing at the time. So she said, why don't you come too? And I went to teach the sisters some digital literacy, did some filming stuff for them. And then we spent half of the time seeing all the projects that they were involved in, which is super cool. They have, a school hall that they're building. They have 2 different schools that they run. There's gardens. There's a huge community farm that was entirely asset-based community development. That's a whole podcast in and of itself that is fascinating. But we spent half of our time doing that, and then half of our time going and doing the touristy things in Livingston. And so I was able to take Jen and Sister Rose along on this adventure. And one of the first things we did, we first got to Livingston, was went on a helicopter ride over Victoria Falls, which was, super cool in and of itself, but really, really neat because, Rose, because of her job, she's Mother Superior to a large group of nuns. So she does a lot of traveling for her work. And Jen and I both travel a lot and have done a lot of interesting things. And this was something that none of us had ever done. So we were able to do that thing for the first time all together. And I have photos of Sister Rose just with glee in front of the whole class that we're about to get on. It was really cool. So moments like that, but then at the same time, on the flip side, the less touristy things, we went to a place where they help with a women's collective. So there's a widows collective that they've all lost either partners or children to HIV and AIDS, and they all work together to, provide each other with microloans for small businesses and teach each other new skills. And the sisters will come in and, teach them new things and stuff as well. And so we went there and learned from them. They, taught us basket weaving. And when we arrived, they all had brought a different dish to cook for us to try. So there were cook fires set up all over the ground everywhere, and they were all cooking different things. Jen has Crohn's. She definitely could eat 2 of those things. So I got to try every single thing, no matter how full I was. I was yes, I'm trying all of this. But it was a lot of really interesting moments that if we didn't have that flexible lifestyle of, we can just disappear for me, I really only disappear for a week or 2 at a time because that's the longest I'll stay away from my kids. Yeah, you can. But Jen's kids are grown and she has a little bit more flexibility. So, she can disappear for a couple of months and do her work from wherever in the world.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's good though, that you guys are in that different place in terms of the children as well. Because then you have you always consistently there, but she's still able to live her existence and be a part of that family.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think everybody's sort of what they are comfortable contributing and how often they want to be around, and that's different for everyone. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're
across the board. That's different for everyone in life. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the most valuable thing that I've learned, one of the most valuable things that I've learned in life is not to expect people to react to or process things the same way that I do, right? Everyone's brain is different. And frankly, expectations are the killer of joy. So a lot of our problems in life and our communication issues and our problems with, interpersonal relationships is expecting people to respond to things the same way that we would, which is really, when you think about it, kind of irrational and unreasonable, but it's our default. Right. So I think
it's a little egotistical.
Yeah.
Right. I think that is a huge key when dealing with a lot of people at the same time, is just understand that everyone is in a different place and, be mindful of that and leave space for it. Yeah. And what that place is might change rapidly and regularly, right? So that's why that clear, open, honest communication. I certainly know that I feel very differently about life in the world today than I did yesterday, right? Like your environment shapes you a bit too, but also, some days are better than others. So if we are regularly communicating, we know where everyone's at and can accommodate for that.
I love that. And on that note, I would like to thank you so much for being on our show. And it is so awesome to have learned so much about you and your family dynamic and the joy that you bring to the world and our little happy, chaotic moments. And I actually can't wait to meet you. I am going to definitely have Tommy reach out and see if we can set something up. And I would love to bring my daughter.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook, Sarah Jean Stewart, Sarah with an H, Jean like blue jeans, Stewart. So I post a lot of, what goes on in our family, what I'm up to. That's sort of the collecting spot for a lot of things. I'm also on Instagram as Adventure Seeker Sarah. And then we also have Polykindred Market on Facebook and Instagram, and polykindredmarket.com. We blog all of the board sort of blogs on there, so you can get our life from a bunch of different perspectives on polykindredmarket.com, which is kind of neat.
Oh, I love that. I was looking for my phone to write all of this down, and I realized I was on my phone. But Tommy's got it.
I got it.
Fantastic. Love it. Well, I look forward to meeting you all in person.
It was very nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
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 1, 2, 3, 42.
All right.
I like her.
That was cool.
Too. She was awesome.
It's a different lifestyle, but it clearly works.
It is definitely a different lifestyle, and it works for people that are able to, openly communicate. And that is a big issue, I find. Our human nature just dictates for us to kind of put a shield over us. And even that is with our families, with our friends. Sometimes we don't even know who we are ourselves because we've never given ourselves an opportunity to really let any kind of boundaries down. So like being on the same page with multiple people and being able to communicate and be open is hard. So kudos to them for being able to balance that, because shit, I have enough trouble with fucking one.
Seriously, right?
We all do.
Serious, right? Sometimes I'm just like, damn it.
We all do. And then
I like the whole having people around the house to help is nice. I was like, I wouldn't mind having that list of people.
But also just think about, like, we all have kids, and then just the pull from the kids, and you feel like I got to spend more time with this kid because I feel they're more. But and then my wife, then my partner, whatever. That it's
oh my god. Then you have like my boyfriend, my other boyfriend.
Now it's time.
I gotta text this boyfriend. Shit, I'd be forgetting to text everyone.
What was funny at the end? She's like, "Oh, and Chris, he lives like 4 hours away." I was like, "Wait, what? There's another guy involved in this mix?" So it works for them. She's incredibly happy,
and they have very like their lives are just so kind of fluid in terms of it changes from one moment to another. So to be able to have that type of connection with that many people so that they flow with it, and it's just a constant kind of pattern as opposed to like this chaotic kind of crazy, jealous insanity that can very much toxify a home.
Oh, destroy families.
Totally.
Yes.
She said life is all about connections.
It
is.
It really is, though. The friends, your family, everyone. It's just so important to just...
And they're happy, and they're not hurting anybody. So who cares? We all end up in the same place. So
that's what I say. As long as you're not hurting anyone, what does it matter?
Dead. We all end up dead.
Yeah. So...
I thought you said dad. I was like, dad.
No,
we don't all end up... I mean,
dad.
I did raise some kids by myself, so I guess that makes me mom dad.
Yeah. But but we all wind up at the same place. It's true, and let's stay as long as we can. And
I mean, do we though? Because some of us get cremated and some of us get buried. So
true, but we're logistically
we all end up dead.
We all end up our conscious end. But so
oh my god, that reminded me of me. I yelled at the Verizon dude yesterday.
That's an odd segue, but
Do
okay.
you think he was
Dead?
dead?
No, because I was trying to like close out my sister's phone line, and he was like, "Well, can I talk to her?" And I guess at that
Oh
point,
my
I was,
God.
like, emotionally just like done, and I was just like, and the automated system was just like, they don't send you to where. So I was like, "She's dead. You can't talk to her. She's not coming on the boat. She's dead." And the guy was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
Yeah, they don't know. They just look at. Yeah, that's annoying.
But I was just like, "Damn, Jen!" Like that. Like after I said it, I was like, "Dude."
Like, I'm so sorry I said that way, but that's just, oh my God. Also, having someone else that can handle my schedule would be fucking, right? Can you imagine
We need
how
a Jen.
life-altering my life would be if someone could, like, yeah, we all need a Jen, because it's not just the business components she's dealing with. It's every aspect of family's schedule.
Well, I've been telling you for forever that you need a scheduler because you're like,
I need a Jen.
Yeah, you have so much going on. Like it's crazy what you have going on. It really is, and it's no wonder that you have to take these days where you're like, I'm out, because it's a lot. You know, some heavy shit sometimes. So
You get into a bad headspace when you start to, like, I don't know.
Well, I feel like that's all of communication and balance.
well, you know what? Lean on people when you need to.
Yeah,
Okay.
communicate with your people around you. Just because it's not a sexual pod doesn't mean you can't have a.
I mean, we do have a tricycle that's not sexual, so
Yeah, we have our tricycle.
And let's go to Ottawa. Let's take a trip.
I really want to do this because, one, I think that it would be a great experience for the kids.
Yeah.
To be around some a different. They're just so positive, and there's so much love and just good energy that's coming off of her, and just to hear the way that she speaks about her family and their dynamic, and that's what they are about. And that's all we teach our kids. That's all we want for them. We want them to be happy. Yep. We want them to live their life in a way that makes them fulfilled.
Yep. Be authentic. Be yourself.
Yes.
Be kind.
And to meet people that are in that same boathouse in terms of the
doing it.
Yeah.
Yes. Beyond the sexual component, because honest, it's nobody's fucking business what I do in my bed.
Exactly.
Because again, they're not living in it with me unless they are. But it's not the outside world's job to tell me or to dictate to me what it is that I'm going to do or can't and not allowed to do.
As long as you're not hurting anyone.
Exactly.
No one's business.
So I think that we should definitely do this, and I definitely want to do it now when we can skate on the canal.
Yeah, down. And I want to see you.
Sounds like one of those moments.
Yeah.
Well, think of it. It's like there's this massive canal that goes through the entire city of Ottawa, and when it freezes, you skate the whole freaking thing.
So cool.
And then you stop at places, and it's almost like
I have snow. I have ski gear.
No, you want to ice skate.
No, ice skates. You don't ski on the canal.
Can I wear my ski jacket, my ski pants?
Obviously.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, you have to wear that.
Right? You know, I have nuts.
Well, you're gonna freeze your twins off then, because it's gonna be cold. It has to be cold.
Oh wait, so should I take out my nipple rings? Is it that cold? Wait, what? No, should I take out my nipple rings?
Wait a minute. We did a whole 90 minutes on polyamorous relationships, and sex didn't come up until now at the very end with just us talking.
I know how.
Whereas, like, I have no problem. What do y'all want to know about me?
No, but yeah. No, but listen, it's a part of life. It's an important part of life, but it's not who we are. It's it's important.
No, it's just it's a component within our lives that some people are fortunate enough to have on a regular basis, and some people just don't.
True. And as we do this, we're meeting fascinating people who are living different lives.
Incredible people.
And it's
super completely different lifestyles and different avenues and different priorities in their life. And that's a big component of it. Where is your what do you prioritize within your life? Is it monetary? Is it your children? Is it your partner? Is it partners? Is it doesn't, but that's just it. We have the freedom that allots us the right to explore all of these avenues without judgment. And that's the problem that we're coming into. There's so much judgment. Just fucking go away.
So yeah, I'm with you. Give less fucks. Do what you do you. And,
Be you and just be nice. That's it. Not that
Don't
hard.
hurt anybody. Like the fact that her daughter thought it through in terms of just mailing the babies out. Well, what if I give this to someone that just lost a baby or something like that? That would be so traumatic for them.
Yeah.
Like, that's just common decency that a lot of people do not have, because they don't consider the consequences their actions have on another person's psyche. And that is part of just don't be a fucked up person. Think about other people when you're making choices or exhibiting actions, or just think it through in terms of, hey, if someone did this to me, fuck everybody else. If someone did this to me, how would it make me feel? And if the answer is like shit, then don't fucking do it.
Exactly.
That's it. So yeah, meeting more and more interesting people, and we'll make that trip happen. That should be definitely be a fun weekend.
And I've never been to Canada, so I'm super excited about that.
Oh my gosh, there's so many cool cities.
Did I mention? Oh my God, Tommy, you don't know this. So I was at the Dolphins game against Buffalo, which one, very fucking confusing. So I was in Dolphins attire.
I know you're like a trader's jet fan. You're like a polyamorous jet fan.
Well, no. So my boyfriend's a Dolphins fan, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go support him because they're playing the Bills. I'm really a Jets fan. I like to watch them play the Jets. I'm like, that type of stuff. So I go, and then something happened, and I jumped up and screamed, yeah! But it was the Buffaloes, and I was like, whoop. So that's that back there. But I, in all honesty, I was so far, and my contacts were so blurry, I couldn't really tell the color. And not far in terms of my seats were great, but I was having trouble, like, distinguishing which team was what. And I had to really focus. No, they're teal. Okay, that one's white, Bills. White, Bills, teal, Dolphins. Like, I'm not a fan of it. I don't know. But while we were leaving, I see these two guys, and I'm like, dude, I know these guys. Why do I know these guys? I'm like, fuck it, I'm taking a picture with them. Take a picture with them. They're from the NHL.
Oh, who were they?
They're from the Panthers.
So another great episode. Awesome work, ladies. And that was great.
Oh, I thought my face got stuck for a second.
Great rabbit hole with Sarah.
Sarah was amazing. We loved her energy. We loved her vibe. We are going to Ottawa.
Going to Ottawa. Gonna meet Nick.
Yeah. And I met people from the Stanley Cup that won the Stanley Cup. Not from the Stanley Cup.
Awesome.
What does that have to do with Ottawa?
Listen, hockey. Rule 42. Rule 42.
Hockey's really big in Canada.
Chaos abounds right now.
And that is what today's show is all about. Our chaotic, happy craziness.
Yeah, there you go.
And welcome to Rule 42. Or thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to Rule 42.
Happy Wednesday.
It's Wednesday?
Well, Thursday when the show goes on. But it's Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday? Oh, shit.
There we go.
1, 2, 3, 42.
Rule 42 is hosted by Audrey Cruz and Jen Burke. It is produced and edited by Tom Smith. The opening song is Rule 42 by Eddie Carr. Rule 42's artwork was created by Aubrey Cruz. And I'm your announcer, Molly Smith. Thank you for listening to Rule 42. We hope you enjoyed the show. New episodes premiere every Thursday on all podcast platforms. Please subscribe, share the show, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple.